Welcome back to our second episode of Peaceful Reunification of Korea, Why the Only Way to World Peace. Today we'll be going into a Q&A where, based on Dr. Lee's previous lecture, the viewers created some questions they wanted to ask him. All right, so Dr. Lee, are you ready?
Oh, yes, please.
All right, perfect. The first question is, you mentioned Korea's ability to embrace different philosophies harmoniously. What do you think is unique about Korea that has enabled it to do so?
Yes, that's excellent question. And then peace and harmony is kind of fundamental principles in the Korean culture. And I was really thinking about it. And I told you about two founding principles in the lecture for Gyeongcheon-ain and Hongik-ingan. You might remember Gyeongcheon means revere heaven and Ain means love people. And Hongik-ingan means benefit the humanity widely at large. So two principles. But I found that there is a more fundamental principle idea producing that two founding principles. That is called 정방각 in Korean. 정 means round, the shape. 방 means square shape, and 각 means triangle. So these three shapes stand for heaven, earth, and human. So heaven, 정, round, earth, square, and human is triangle. So that is the principle of traditional Korean philosophies in terms of harmony of these 정반각, heaven, earth, and human. That is basis of Korean cultures producing 경천애인 and 홍익인간. And you may remember the movie, The Squid Game, the 오징어 game. And do you remember that the managing guy with a pink suit, with a black, a mask or helmet, and they have a three shapes. One, there's a round, and another one is triangle with guns and rifles, and the square shape. And in the movie, the round shapes, guys have the minor role, uh, petty jobs, and the square one is the head of the this group. So it represents the kind of traditions of Korean culture, the three shapes. And actually, the title, the Squid Game itself, is very traditional children's game. We don't even know when it started. So it's the shapes of a round and triangle and square, and then children's in two groups, fighting to get through the lines. And I almost forgot how to do it, but it was very fun game. But it represents three concepts, three fundamental principles of Korean cultures of harmony, 정방각, round, square, and triangle. So harmony itself is the key. So that's why this kind of fundamental principles produced 경천애인 as a human is center and revered heaven and managed the earth, and also peace between uh, among humans, like living for the sake of others. That is the principle of 홍익 인간, benefit humanity at large. So this kind of principles, I think, naturally could embrace all these four other big philosophies nicely, because there are elements that is kind of blended, naturally with these founding principles, so that the other kind of Buddhism, Confucianism, Christianity, and all these Socrates teachings of Hellenism basis of humanism also has no conflicts in the Korean fundamentals of peace and harmony. I hope you guys can understand. I try to, make it, short. So that's, I think, how it can mix well.
What role do you think Korea's historical, peace-loving culture can contribute to the peaceful reunification of Korea? And or how can people contribute to Korea's reunification by drawing upon its historically peaceful culture?
Yeah, so division of the two Koreas is the next topic of this lecture series. And then North Korea is unfortunately, you know, poisoned, I guess, poisoned by communism. So, so North and South Koreans share the same, these cultural traditions I just mentioned, this 경천의 인홍인간. But somehow in recent history of coming of a Cold War and coming of communism, the half of Koreans, unfortunately, poisoned by communism. But it takes time to get out of that poisonous symptoms. So the best way to do is not by, force, not by another military power into North Korea or suppression or by any other means, but only by kind of flowing into these cultural forces they knew, they have known in heart in the North Korean people. So we got to revive their peace-loving cultural trait that is now covered by communist idea and the strange 주체 idea by Kim Il-sung and this Kim Jong-il and Kim Jong-un. So how we can revive this kind of cultural trait in North Korean minds is free flow of information into North Korea. So that's why currently North Korea is most afraid of infusion of K-drama, K-pop, and K-movies into North Korea, because because naturally North Korean people embrace this one. This is ours. They knew it by heart. So that's why North Korean regime tried to block it by any means, by sentencing to death and imprisoning these kids just watching the Korean movies to multiple years in prison. That's totally nonsensical. You know that. You can imagine. So I think, there are many ways to do that, but we can explain later. But by establishing a peace zone from the current demilitarized zone in the Korean Peninsula, we can make some open space, legally, internationally, rationally, so that North Korean people can access to it in a very wide way, so that we need to turn the Korean DMZ into the UN peace zone and UN office there, so that we can legally access to North Korean general people, and North Korean people can access to UN peace zone for many reasons, cultural reasons or medical reasons. We can establish hospitals in the DMZ. So the many other activities in the DMZ will make North Korean people realize who they are. As soon as they realize who they are, the regime will collapse naturally. So that peaceful reunification of two Koreas, I think cultural power, not another nuclear weapons threat. So nuclear weapons will not resolve, the two Koreas conflicts. I really wish this kind of peaceful movement and awakening the religious tradition in North Korea. Remember Wonsan revival and Pyongyang Christianity spread? They are just hiding. So we need to awaken that kind of spirit by prayer as well as by such peaceful activities. In that way, we can establish a peaceful reunification of two Koreas. Yeah.
Can you expand on why K culture or Hallyu stems from teachings of Buddha, Confucius, Jesus, and Socrates?
Yeah, that's not an easy question. because I'm not an expert on Buddhism or Confucianism, but I just know the surface of that teachings. So I heard that there are four big stream of teachings in East and West. So in the East, we have a two big stream is Buddhism and Confucianism that happened BC 7th to 6th centuries. And BC 5th centuries in the West, Socrates' teachings appeared, the Hellenism. And prior to that, of course, the Hebraism traditions now appeared in Europe. So somehow these four big streams of teachings kind of waiting for the emergence of teachings of Jesus Christ, like 400 prior to Jesus' birth, this kind of big teachings and appeared in human history. I found that's very amazing. And since then, no other big teachers replaced Buddha, Confucius, and Socrates and Jesus. So you gotta this kind of historical trend seems to be very significant in understanding the history of Korean culture and Korean peninsula. And as I explained, uh, the Hallyu, the Korean wave, is the mixture of these traditions of Hebraism and Hellenism in the West recently, rather, and the long-standing Buddhism and Confucianism. So in every corner of the world, in Africa, Muslim countries like Saudi Arabia, welcome the K-pop music and, any countries, Brazil, Russia, even Cuba recently, the young people are fascinated. There's a recent kind of uh, trend, even my own children, and was bragging that I know BTS at school, but I know my children do not know BTS in person, but they are at school. Oh yeah, BTS is my friend, so that they got attention from the school kids. So that's very interesting trend. And the Korean food now is more popular. So somehow this kind of movement is happening not by human force. I felt I feel like it's kind of some divine trend is coming together because who knows? Nobody knows the movie, the Squid Game was so popular worldwide. Actually, the director of the movie had a hard time finding the the funding. Nobody want to fund the movie. They thought it's not a good movie. A strange movie, strange script. But somehow people all around the world embraced because I don't know. There's some elements of compassion there. That these chanbangak, the round, scare, and trap, even they didn't even know the principles of that chanji-in, that is heaven, earth, and human. But somehow there are a lot of philosophical elements in that movie. So, so it's just somehow that trend uh, is reflecting these mixtures of big traditions from all corners of the world. That's why Hallyu can uh, being embraced by many young people, especially with pure minds, like teens, because they don't have any, bigotry or, any prior uh, discriminatory ideas, so that they just accept the Korean alphabet, Korean language, easy to learn because Chinese, so Dongyi characters actually, as I told you, Chinese characters have existing for a long time, but most Chinese people have a hard time understanding Chinese character, just like Korean people in the 14th century. before inventing Hangul, Korean alphabet. So until recently, 100 years ago in China, I heard that 90% of people uh, is illiterate. They cannot understand Chinese, documents. But but currently it has been improved like 50 or more percent. But still, Chinese Dongyi characters are hard to, you know, understand. So the even the elementary school kids, I heard that the Korean kids learn to read the books in a kindergarten. Uh, they can read Hangul, but some Chinese kids can learn the books like a fifth or sixth grade generally because they have to learn the Chinese characters first for many years before reading the book. So that kind of things are happening so that these kids are embracing the the Korean cultures, Hangul, without any, you know, uh, previous thoughts and bigotries and discrimination. So I think in that way, Korean cultures, this kind of Hallyu can spread to many young minds, and I think it can help the harmony of the world, uh, people and cultures.
I heard some people believe Confucius was one of the Tongyi tribe. Is this true?
Yeah, that's interesting questions. I heard about it, and base the basis of that idea is two Chinese book. The famous Chinese historian in the BC second century. His name is Hama Chan. Uh, in Chinese, they call him Sima Qian, and he wrote his famous history book called Sagi, Shiji, Sagi. And in that book, he mentioned about the Confucius is from Dongyi tribe. And I have some Chinese uh, words I remember. I read it, but I don't really understand the the exact wording. But this Hamachan mentioned it, and also Confucius himself made note of in his own book, The Dialects of Confucius. The title of the book in Korean, he said is non-a. And in that book, he mentioned about longing for uh, going back to his ancestors' hometown, home. So I guess because of that two documents, people said Confucius is from Dongyi tribe. That's what I can say.
How do you envision the Hallyu wave contributing to sharing Korea's peace-loving culture in the future?
Yes, I think I explained a little bit about that when I explained the four big teachers in the human history embraced in Korean cultures and it affecting Hallyu trend and peace loving because Hallyu trend is embracing the fundamentals of peace and harmony in its principles. So 정방각. So the round is 정, and 방 is square in it, and 각 triangle in it. So it is kind of harmoniously heaven, earth, and humans. So this kind of cultural traits, and kind of smeared in the Korean Hallyu and K-pop, like group dancing and group singing is old Korean traditions. I knew that Koreans in the field, they dance together and singing together, but somehow it is now transformed into much, you know, shiny way, like a BTS is doing, and Blackpink, and many others. I don't remember their names in US Billboard chart, you know, but my kids know about them. But this kind of groups, dancing and and singing is originating in the old Korean cultures, but this kind of community centers, but still, focusing on individual traits. individual rights harmonized together. So that I think in terms of peace and harmony, the young people and the teens in the worldwide and 20s, if they embrace Korean K-pops and movies and dramas, they learn something, that kind of traits. In that way, I I really hope that the world cultures can be harmonized so that they can find more similarities in their own cultures rather than differences in that way, so that they can get together through sharing Hangul, Korean characters. They kind of bragging about their knowledge of a Hangul, some kids, uh, by mimicking the BTS words and their likes in food and things like that. So I think there are many, many positive things that Korean Hallyu uh, can improve cultural peace and harmony worldwide.
What led many Koreans to convert to Christianity during the Wonsan revival movement?
Yes, that's very good questions. It is 1903 and 1906 that kind of revival movement happened. And obviously, there are many, you know, diligent and great missionaries from Western nations, United States and Germany and France, and uh, they were taught by Jesus Christ to spread his words and wisdom to the end of the earth. So, so they might think that end of earth is Asia, and the eastern part of Asia is the end of earth, so that they reached China and Japan, but somehow they found that Korea is the better place to embrace this Christianity. And interestingly, Korea's acceptance of Christianity is not directly by these Western missionaries. It is interesting. People in China, Korean people in China and Korean people in Japan kind of brought the Christianity to Korea. That's history, clearly said. So it is very interesting. So that these Koreans from in China brought the Christianity to Korean Peninsula with the scriptures, and they built, churches, and then they brought many missionaries to Korea from Japan too. So that's an interesting phenomena, different from other kind of activities of the missionaries. That's, I think, based on the Korean indigenous cultures. I imagine that revere heaven and love people is in essence same teachings of Jesus Christ. Love your Lord, heaven, and love your neighbors, so that people naturally can accept these teachings wholeheartedly without any objections. So that's why this kind of one sun revival and the Pyongyang, uh, you know, revival is is was happening. Uh, that's my kind of assessment of why and how it happened.
Does this mean that Korean culture sets the standard for other countries to follow?
Yeah, that's a good question. But I don't think that the other cultures will follow any Korean standards. Rather, through this Korean Hallyu cultures, uh, I hope that they can find the good sides of their own cultures, so that they can they they find more similarities in world cultures of peace and harmony, even in their own religious teachings. There are many aspects that old world religious kind of teachings can be harmonized into one kind of world scriptures, that I'll not be surprising if any people, any person would develop any world scripture based on these peace and harmony aspects of world religions. So that rather than setting any standards of Korean culture everybody follow, I guess every cultures now can be intermingled based on revere heaven and love their neighbors and enrich the humanity and living for the sake of others. I think it can spread, disseminate to all cultures so that we can find some foundations of all cultures that can embrace people without prejudice so that we can trans the racial discrimination, we can transcend a religious differences, and we can transcend any uh, state barriers like a nation state. So there's two big barriers of country by country. So we don't have to set up that barriers of countries, in all of the world, so that I hope that this cultural movement will demolish such state barriers and religious barriers and racial and ethnic, barriers, so that people will see there's a one people, kind of one family here. So that I think that in that way, Korean culture will help demolish such diverse barriers in the world, and hope that the young people will pioneer such activities of demolishing such barriers of culture, ethnic, racial, and state barriers. I hope so.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. And that was our final question. Thank you again for answering all of those questions. Well thought out, a lot of interesting new information. This concludes our first Q&A session of the Peaceful Reunification of Korea series. We'll see you again in our next episode.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.